Great. We're going to call to order the Town of Fairfax Planning Commission meeting on May 15, 2025 at 7 p.m. at the Women's Club at 46 Park Road. Before I begin, I'm just to read the instructions. This meeting is being held in person at the Fairfax Women's Club, 46 Park Road in Fairfax. It's also being held virtually on Zoom and broadcast and live streamed at the town's website and on the CMCM TV website. To participate in the meeting virtually, join the Zoom webinar and use the raised hand function to provide verbal public comment. The Zoom webinar ID is on the agenda, as is the telephone number to dial in with instructions to raise your hand and speak and give public comment if you're on by the phone. Before 2 p.m. on the day of a meeting, you may email written comments to the Planning Commission at planning@townoffairfax.org. Comments are provided to the Planning Commission prior to the meeting and become part of the meeting record, but will not be read out loud. Okay. The meeting protocol. The chair shall maintain order at the meetings in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, and the Planning Commission has the responsibility to be a model of respectful behavior in order to encourage community participation and citizen input at Planning Commission meetings. The Planning Commission and the audience are expected to refrain from using profane language and/or ridiculing the character or motive of Planning Commission members, staff, or members of the public, and to maintain the standards of tolerance and civility. All interested persons are invited to participate in public hearings in order to give all interested persons an opportunity to be heard and to ensure the presentation of all points of view. Members of the audience should limit their presentation to 3 minutes, provide comments by email as described above, state your views and concerns succinctly, and submit any new documents to the planning staff first, directly or via email at planning@townoffairfax.org to be entered into the agenda. Can we have a roll call?
Swift.
Here.
Kelly. Bela.
Present.
Jansen.
Here.
Petrone.
Here.
Newton.
Here.
Chair Pfeffer.
Here. Excellent. First, we need to approve the agenda. Does anybody have any changes, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swift.
Aye.
Bela.
Aye.
Jansen.
Aye.
Petrone.
Aye.
Newton.
Aye.
Chair Pfeffer.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. First item on the agenda is public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission on matters not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission may do so by email, in person, or via Zoom in the manner described above. Presentations will be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the Planning Commission Chair. And can we reflect for the minutes that Commissioner Kelly is in attendance prior to the non-agenda items? Thank you.
And Commissioner Kelly just arrived, so he is present.
Yep. If you have comments on non-agenda items? Yep. Let's go.
Sorry, Chairperson, Commissioners, Rick Hamer. I am a former resident at School Street Plaza, still downtown Fairfax. At least 2 of the commissioners know I have been before the commissioner regarding that property before, so they would know that I'm pretty familiar with it. There's currently an attempt, I should call it, of a ministerial approval for a redevelopment there that is being applied for under Section 17-126. And there are some issues with the application. The first, most obvious, is on drawing A1, that the owner is claiming the area for the school street, which is a public street which accesses the ballpark, and is not deeded to the owner at this time. It is a public street with at least 5 different users on it, which include the West Marin Little League. They used the School Street area, which is approximately 1/10 of an acre. The property is only 1.92 acres. The adding of the 0.1 acre from the School Street stub then equals 2.02, which is the number they use to calculate their density bonuses and the like. So there are problems with how their application was filed, at least their full application, and it should really the planning director, the planning department, and so on should consider asking the applicant to revise and resubmit for that reason. Additionally, the section of the town code, which is the WHO section, which was not approved for or not recommended to the town council, and it had 2 votes, Commissioner Swift and Commissioner Pfeffert voted against it, went to the town council anyway, and then the town council approved it. So there's a sort of break in the normal lineage of this, and the problem here is this is hardly a rubber stamp ministerial approval. There is a question as to whether or not Section 1726, which does not contain a section called procedure. Well, 17.126 says go to the section procedure, which is in 17.026, and there is no section of procedure or subsection of procedure there. So this needs to be whatever within the power of the planning director, the planning department, the planning commission needs to do something about this project, which will change the shape of Fairfax. What we really need to see is some public hearings on this. I don't think it is ready for a ministerial approval, and I think the deficiencies would disqualify it from that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have any other public comments on non-agenda items? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
I see no hands online, Chair.
Okay. We will close public comment on non-agenda items and move on to the rest of our agenda tonight. There are no consent calendar items, so we have our first public hearing item for 2 Inyo Avenue. Can we have the staff report?
Okay, the project includes legalization of a stairway from the upper rear yard of the site down to the lower rear yard, construction of a planter, legalization of a planter on the east side property line and south side of the existing accessory laundry, bathroom, living space building, a hot tub concrete support platform, a proposed flowing water fountain with an associated cistern to collect runoff and rainwater to circulate through the art feature, a 104-square-foot addition to the southwest corner of the existing single-family residence, and relocation of an unpermitted storage shed from its current location within the required western side yard setback to the front of the property, out of the minimum and combined side yard setbacks. The purpose of the addition is to provide a code-compliant and safer access to the residence, as well as providing additional space for a more functional floor plan. The existing front stairs built in 1922 are not code compliant and have no landing or room for a landing between the front door and the front fence and front retaining wall that runs along the front property line. The rear entry to the house is the one used by the owner to access the dwelling. The project complies with most of the Actually, it doesn't. Okay, so the project will not comply with the minimum combined side yard, eastern side yard setback, and it doesn't comply with the combined side yard setback. It also is not going to meet the minimum front setback. But it's not going to change the setbacks maintained by the property because the existing structures are already in those setbacks. So it requires a conditional use permit because the property exceeds the minimum required size, but it's only 60 feet wide, and a property with a 19% slope is supposed to be 63 feet wide to conform to the code, and the site's only 60 feet wide. The conditional use permit process is to ensure the proposed development of a residential lot maintains the residential character of the site and does not have unwanted effects on surrounding residences or the neighborhood. The small 104-square-foot entry living space addition to the southwest corner of the structure faces Pacheco Avenue and will have no impact on the neighboring residences at the end of Pacheco Avenue that are across the street. The addition will not extend above the roof line of the existing one-story house, and it will maintain a 13-foot setback from the west side property line. The addition is at the southwest rear corner of the house and will not be visible to any of the residences on Eno Avenue. The site within the addition will have a floor area ratio of 25%, which is below the permitted 40%. The expanded house will be similar to other residences on similar sized lots in the immediate neighborhood that range in size from 1,305 square feet with a floor area ratio of 21% at 16 Eno to 2,130 square feet with a floor area ratio of 42% at 27 Eno. The existing poured concrete stairway and hot tub pad that are under construction should not negatively impact the closest residents to the east of the site at 8 Eno, as they maintain substantial setbacks from both side property lines and are just a little bit above grade. A raised wooden planter is under construction within the minimum side yard setback. It turns at a 90-degree angle to a wider section of planter that runs along the south wall of the laundry room. The applicant proposes planting succulents in the portion of the planter that's on the south side of the laundry room over the entrance to the root cellar. So it's like a deck. There's a root cellar and a deck over it where he's proposing to store, like, you know, landscaping equipment and other things. He proposes planting like some shrubs or maybe small trees in the section of planter that runs along the fence, right? Basically to screen the neighbor's rear deck at 8 Eno, which is quite a large deck, and they've built a privacy screen on it, and it's painted white, like a bright white. So it's, you know, it's reflective. The white paint is very reflective. So because of the location of the planters, the project requires a combined side yard setback variance because it's going to have 0 setback on one side, and then the ADU, which is where the old garage used to be, is literally like 4 feet from the property line. So the property already has a combined setback of hardly anything, right? But this is going to be a new structure in the minimum side yard setback. So it requires the combined side yard setback variance. The relocated shed will maintain a front setback of 9 feet, which is a greater setback than the existing house itself, but it doesn't meet the 10-foot setback, which this property has to have because it's a corner lot. Corner lots have a larger front and side, you know, any street frontage has to have a 10-foot setback. So the fact that it's a corner lot and the fact that it doesn't meet the width, a lot of the property is level, but then it slopes down to the creek. Those are the unusual features. And the age of the house and the laundry room, they were built in 1922 when there were no regulations. People built things just on the property lines. Those are the unusual characteristics of the property that are kind of driving the need for these, both the setback variances and the conditional use permit. We received no comments or special conditions from any of the agencies that reviewed the project except the Marin Municipal Water District, who indicated that a new water entitlement must be established for the new accessory dwelling unit. Apparently, the accessory dwelling unit was finalized without getting the proper water entitlement from MMWD. So they need to complete a high pressure water service application and provide it along with a copy of the building permit for the unit to MMWD, pay the appropriate fees and charges, comply with the district rules and regulations in effect at the time the service is requested, including complying with all indoor and outdoor requirements of District Code Title III water conservation, which may include verification of specific indoor fixture efficiency compliance and complete backflow prevention requirements if the district determines that backflow protection is warranted. We received no comments from the Ross Valley Sanitary District, the Fairfax, no special conditions from Ross Valley Sanitary District, Fairfax Police Department, the Building Department, Fairfax Public Works. So we're recommending that you approve application 2509 by adopting resolution 2025-10, setting forth the findings and the conditions for the project approval. And that would complete my report. Oh, I did have 2 corrections. There's a typo in the right at the beginning of the staff report in the little square. It's supposed to be parcel APN 002-12337 instead of 27. The applicant, Mark Wittenkeller, is no longer the applicant. The owner is currently the applicant. And I wanted to change in the table about setback requirements. In the 4th column, the combined front and rear setback, where it says 25 feet proposed, it should say no change, because there is no change. The existing structures already are closer than the things that are being proposed. So that would conclude my report.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the commission for staff, or any questions? Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I do have some questions. That's also in the table, page 2 in the staff report. The rear setback is listed at 67 feet. That seems to be to the main house, but not to the other structure in the back. So I look at plan, what is this, A 1.0. It has 66 feet to the main house from the furthest point of the triangular shape of the lot. But from the ADU location, that would be significantly less, probably no more than 10 feet, if you go perpendicular to the property line. So I'm not understanding that. So I'm looking at sheet A 1.0.
Right.
It has a number of dimensions on it. And there's a 66-foot 8-inch rear setback shown that goes from the property line at the tip of the triangle, so that's already suspect, and it goes to the back of the proposed expansion, which is the main house. But right in the middle of that is an existing ADU. And so if I were to take the corner of the ADU to that same property line, it would be something different. Probably
Right.
more like,
So this is
well,
where it got-
25 or
Yeah,
so.
this is where it got a little confusing. So we were trying to call out the setback of the new addition and show that the new addition wasn't going to go into any kind of a required setback. The ADU is already approved, and it was legally allowed whether it was in a required setback or not, because it was built right on the same location as the previously existing garage. So I was just trying to call out the setback of the addition, the new stuff, the new things that were being built.
Yes, but the 67 feet is listed under existing, so that I don't think materially
Oh, I see what
changes
you're
the
saying.
thing.
Oh, I see
It
what
says
you're saying.
existing is 67,
so
that
I'll
would be
correct that.
25 or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just, it should, yeah, what it's, what the, I get it.
Right.
I'll
And the combined would still be more than 35, so
Yeah.
it doesn't
I'll correct that.
change the findings, but the number is kind of odd.
Yeah, I'll fix that. Okay, so it's setback to,
Okay.
setback
Then
to the
in the
ADU.
side setbacks, at the proposed, it lists the change from, if you look at the side setback, from 0 and 0 to 0 and 3. I believe that would be 13, because that's the dimension from the property line to the relocated shed. Or do I misunderstand that?
Yeah,
So on one side, on Pacheco,
This one was hard because we had so many weird, we really got to get rid of these combined setbacks.
right.
But really, the side setback. See,
But where's
I was
the 3?
Struggling with the setbacks of the new things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to figure out a way to show that in the table, and I think that was a mistake. I should have just showed, maybe had 2 tables, existing structures, and then proposed new stuff. So you've got the 4-foot setback that the ADU is already maintaining, and you've basically got a 0 setback where the planters are proposed in the side yard setback, right?
If those would be Yeah.
And the laundry is already at a 0 setback.
The laundry is 0. Then on the other side, it's not 0. It's 10 to the house and 4 or something to the unit.
Right,
So
but-
I'm trying to find. So anyway, the
It
numbers.
should have been approximately 3 or 4 is what it should be.
I presume. Yeah.
Yeah, what did I put?
Again, I don't think it changes the application.
doesn't, it
But
doesn't,
I cannot reconcile it with the drawings.
Yeah, I think next time if I have one like this, I'll do 2 tables. One for existing structures and then one for the new construction. That might make it clearer, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and if the new construction doesn't make it worse, it doesn't materially affect.
Well, it does make it
or-
worse because you've got more structures
True,
built at
yeah.
the property line,
True,
right?
True. Yeah, true. Yeah. Okay.
And you've got new structure built into the 10-foot front setback, right?
Yes.
1 foot
correct.
into it, yeah.
One last question. I can see that on the drawing, the setback from the creek is compliant. So that embankment line, it shows up, it's a little hard to read. Where does that line come from? Did staff check that's accurate? Has that a, so on the, this again, same sheet.
So the top of the bank?
The top of the bank.
Yeah.
It's clear out of the 20-foot
It's a little
line.
difficult to see. You have to really climb down in amongst like the poison oak and stuff, right? But
You did that, right? Yeah.
I looked from
Okay.
at the bottom of the creek, right?
Right.
And
No, it's the source of that,
I believe that
yeah.
this stuff is well out of it, right? This
Okay.
may not be exactly accurate, but
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to follow up on the commissioner's questions about the combined side yard and front and rear setbacks. So for the purposes of this application, you were considering Inyo, the front yard, and the creek, the backyard, right? So earlier, when you said something about because it's a corner lot, the front yard setbacks would apply to both the frontages on both of the streets, what did you mean?
Okay, what I was saying is that there's a special section just relating to all corner lots in town, and it's defined as any property that's at the intersection of 2 streets is considered a corner lot, and it says that along any street frontage, you have to have a minimum front or side or rear setback of 10 feet. And it's all for visibility, turning the corner. People were putting 6-foot fences like right up to the edge of the sidewalk and stuff, and people couldn't see people walking, so I think that's why they put it in. And I know that the fire department has supported, on small lots, they've supported portions of the frontages to go up to 6 feet, but they've never allowed it to get within 12 feet of like the corner. You have to keep that corner visibility open.
And do you know whether the applicant received any feedback from the neighbors, especially the one at 8 Inyo?
They're here.
Yeah. know.
I received feedback from the neighbors, but they're
Okay.
here to express their concerns.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, can you tell me what the height of the planter along that east side of the property is?
Yeah, I think I was standing right next to it, so I'm 5'4", so I think it's about maybe like 5'6", 6 feet. The property slopes down, so it.
Right. So I'm wondering if you're standing, are you measuring it from the street level or sidewalk level?
No, so
Or
the
are you
property-
measuring it from the
We measure from-
walkway that goes along the other house?
Well, we measure it from grade,
Okay.
and these properties are very interesting. They're kind of flat where the houses are, and then they both slope down towards the creek,
Right.
right? So the fence looks like it's probably been there a while. The neighbors can probably tell you how, it already exceeds 6 feet, and I believe it predated the town's fence height limitations. So the fence itself is already probably
The
like,
fence on the east side?
the fence that the shared property line between 8 Inyo and 2 Inyo
Okay.
is like 12 feet in height. This planter goes maybe halfway up the fence.
All right, but it covers both the back, the neighbor's backyard, as well as coming up where the house is located, in front of their backyard.
No, it's on the, when you come down the stairs, right? There's the part that's on the shared property line,
Okay,
but then it wraps around behind the laundry room on this property. So it's all one height with the planters. And it's about, maybe portions of it are probably like, I would have to duck to get under, so some are 4 feet above grade. The grade isn't all level, it's kind of different all around.
Okay.
And then it probably gets to maybe like 5, 6 at like the back corner where the property is really the steepest. It varies in height, but it never goes above the fence that's already there, the shared fence.
okay. And then I'm curious about the conditions relating to MMWD, because, as you said, we didn't necessarily have authority over that, but MMWD would have their own authority, I mean, right?
I'm not sure how this happened because they're supposed to get copies of all ADU permits, right? And be able to speak about them, put conditions on it at the building permit stage.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why that never happened, but they're taking this opportunity to say, hey, we want that cleared up as part of this project where they're trying to ask for all these things to be legalized.
All right, well, I'll follow up with the applicant on that. I think that's all the questions I have for now.
Yeah, the
Thank-
interesting thing is, that I'm pretty sure, did the state say we can't require separate meters for the ADUs? I thought anyway, they've
For new
changed.
construction.
Yeah, okay, for new construction, you can't require new meters, so what the water district has done is they're calling it a increased water entitlement. They're not asking for a separate meter, but they're saying that property that was entitled to a certain amount of water for one house is now supposed to go through their process it's like what they do for commercial properties when the commercial space gets divided into more units, or let's say someone puts in a hot tub business, right? They say, oh, you need to increase your entitlement. So I don't know if anyway, it was just a comment. I'm not sure if they're trying to, make up for the fact that they can't require meters for these things. But anyway.
Well, I think the costs of getting the water in there have been a huge hurdle for a lot of people that have wanted to
Yeah,
construct ADUs. And I
Right.
think we need to encourage people to follow the, requirements and do it the right way.
right.
Okay.
Well, so all the the bathroom fixtures and everything and the plumbing and everything is to code. It's just this entitlement thing that wasn't dealt with. So the building inspector made sure that it's all safe and per the building code, right? We had another one that this happened with too. I can't remember the address right now, but for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying we need to have a level playing field where everybody has to fork over the same,
Right,
costs.
right.
Yep.
I forgot to ask one question. Can you point out on the plan where the cistern is constructed?
Yeah, so if you look at A1, I've heard, this is like an art feature, and I was having a bit of difficulty getting like real clear pictures. Like at one point I was told that it's underneath the fountain, but I don't believe that that's the case. I think it's going to run along the side of the fountain. And if you look at page A10,
Yeah, looking at it.
they're showing it, but because it's an art feature, we don't have actual plans for it. It's going to be designed on the site, right? That's why I sent you the picture, because this landscaping company, they don't necessarily have like construction drawings for the water feature. So,
So that's where the cross-section 5A
right, that
4.2
gives
is
a little bit of a better
elongated,
idea.
sort of 10 feet long, 1 foot wide.
Because I think it will change as it's under, it won't, the size and length, the width and length won't change, but it, maybe the placement of the rocks and the placement of the different little portions of the creek,
So it's
slope.
in the lowest level of the backyard, basically. Right.
Yes. Commissioner Baylor.
Yeah, so just trying to clarify why this is coming before us and requiring a conditional use permit. It's because the proposed planter is going to could go into the 9-foot setback from Inyo Avenue. So is that really the only reason this is requiring a CUP? Is there's
No,
a
the
planter
conditional
that's gonna-
use permit is required for any, it's required.
Well, I understand it's a non-conforming lot, so we have
Right.
to come before us, but is this really the only constraint that's,
No, so it requires the conditional use permit and it requires setback variances because they're building new structures in required setbacks. Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioner Swift.
Yeah, a couple questions. Staff report says the shed, that staff received a complaint in 2021. And is that the same shed that is on the property now that is a part of this to
Correct.
be moved? So one of my questions would be what happened between
You know,
2021 and now?
I can't really address that. I wasn't the staff person handling this
Okay.
violation. It was the building official. And
Okay.
I think, did you get involved in the shed? No. Yeah, so it was mostly the building official. Yeah.
When I did a site visit and I went down Pacheco, on the side of the property where the ADU is, there's like a house number of 39, which I assume would be 39 Pacheco. So would that be the address then of the ADU?
The town usually has to issue addresses, and we have not issued an address for this ADU. Not everybody wants addresses for their ADU, so I believe the owner put that up, and that's the address that I would recommend if he does decide he wants an address for the ADU. The post office won't deliver mail unless an ADU has its own address. So I'm not sure how they're getting their mail right now. Sometimes people in the ADUs have post office boxes, and so they don't even expect to get their mail, like they move around a lot. But if he wants that formal address, it doesn't cost anything. You just have to write a letter and say, I have an ADU, it's been finalized, I would like to have this address. And then I send it out to all the different agencies and say, do you have any issues with us issuing this address? And if nobody has any issues, then we send a second letter out to everybody formally changing it. I mean, formally issuing it. Yeah. People can change their addresses too. I've had them.
So the laundry building, it's been described different ways in different places. Is this considered living space? And it's got a shower or bathroom
Has
in
a
it?
full bathroom. Yep, and that shows up in the early Marin County tax assessor's inspection record. So it's been living space, laundry room, bathroom since before the code started prohibiting this. Yeah, it was kind of common for some of these Italian families, right? The women didn't want their husbands coming home from work dirty and going into the house. So we'd see them all the time. Detached accessory structures with some living space, laundry room, and a full bathroom.
Okay, so it is,
It's legal non-conforming.
right, so it is considered living space. Okay.
Legal non-conforming. If someone came in today to do this, they'd have to go to you guys and request a use permit to create living space in a detached accessory structure. Unless it's an ADU.
And the projected cistern and that feature is a part of the project
Yes.
that's before us?
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting situation here because the landscaping improvements in the yard, if we hadn't caught them doing it without a permit, it's like, I don't know that we would have made them come before you. It's concrete on grade, the stairway's replacing an existing wooden stairway. The bed for the hot tub is like concrete on grade. It's rebar, but it's on the ground. So, but since they're doing it all in one thing, it's become part of it. It needs a conditional use permit. It's an new improvements on a site that's less than the required width requirement. So you review the whole project as a whole.
those are all the questions I have now.
Thank you. Yes, one question from Commissioner Petroni.
Just one quick question. I saw the condition about the plantings along the planter that's within the, outside of the setback are to be drought tolerant and fire resistant. And I'm curious, is that as a result of actual city policy, or is that because they're outside of the allowed setback?
I was very surprised that the fire department didn't.
Oh, it was from the fire department?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
from them.
Okay.
But I mean, when they do a report on your house, they will tell you, get rid of your wooden fences, pull the vegetation away from the fences and away from the house, because what they tell you is that the fire can get a spark and then literally go along the fences, right? So I struggled with this because I don't really know if it's wise to put, a planter right up against a wooden fence. But the fire department didn't say anything about it, so I just added that condition because I think it's the least we can do to try to make it safer. I think it's because it's not law yet.
It's
the
not
state
yet law,
fire
right.
code doesn't say you can't have plants up against fences.
Sure. And so I assume the applicant is willing to comply?
I don't know, you'll have to ask him.
Okay. Thank you.
If the commission thinks it's a good idea to include it as a condition and he's not happy, he has a right to appeal it to the council, right? Yeah. For any conditions that he might not like, yeah.
Okay, we're all set. Is the applicant here and want to speak to the project?
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure I have anything to add from the report. As a brief summary, in the 104 square foot addition to the main house, that's so that I can have a 6-person dining room table. Right now I just have room for a 4-person table against the kitchen wall, so that's what that is. And also, actually, it is a part to give me a more safe and also gracious entrance, because the actual front entrance on Inyo, as Linda said, is actually not safe. It's kind of extremely close to the street, and you open this little fence and immediately have steps, and there's no landing. So for safety and also graciousness, I don't use that. So this rear entrance, it'll give me a more proper entrance to the house. So that's that. Yeah, I guess I'll just say that my intention is to make the little center area of the yard beautiful and pleasant for me, and it also will be more pleasant to look at, I'm pretty sure, from the 8 Inyo side. Like Linda said, the deck is quite tall. It's over my property, and so if the idea of this planter thing, which covers this utility area, to just have low succulents on it, that's just to make it look more pleasant, basically. And for sure, I would be aligned and agreeable to drought tolerant. And let's see, the other thing just to mention, this is to kind of rectify the mistake that I made about the shed, which was flagged. It's built inside, right up to the fence. And I had thought that the new shed location was completely legal over 10 feet because it's within the existing fence that was built in conjunction with the city, which I thought was 10 feet from Inyo. So this new shed location is actually inside that. So it sounds like maybe it's 1 foot, it's only 9 feet, but I thought it was 10. But what I'm trying to say is that this new shed location is actually inside the approved fence, so won't have any impact on visibility. And like Linda said, it's actually farther from Inyo than the house itself is, and the house is quite old. So, I'm actually trying to rectify the mistake of that shed, which was flagged. So I guess that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open for public comment for anybody else in the room. Yes, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I represent the property owner at 8 Inyo. It happens to be my mother, who's lived there for 74 years and is unable to attend tonight. A lot of the questions that you guys have asked are questions that I have had, and I don't think a lot of them have been answered already. But let's start with the side east yard setback. First of all, I combed the staff report and the plans that were with it, and I see no plans, no anything representing that raised planter other than it's supposed to be elevated 7'4" above existing grade, which I believe is the bottom of that. When I look at that planter, it looks like it's 2 feet deep, which basically is putting whatever planting is going up much further. This is probably not the place to decide what the plans and specs should be, but I can't see putting a wooden planter in a easement that's not in the setback that's probably going to rot by the time these trees or bushes or whatever grow tall enough to hide a screen that was basically not authorized, but approved by the city, which was a privacy screen so that my mother or anybody on that deck wouldn't be able to see into the property at 2 Inyo. So we cannot see, or anybody cannot see this planter without really going out of your way to get over the top of the deck and try to figure out or get on the roof to see what's going on. So in my mind, this whole thing is unnecessary. And in my mind also, I really don't understand why we need to grant a setback variance when there's other ways of screening whatever this you want to screen without going into the setback. So I don't see any advantage whatsoever in allowing that. Secondly, to the shed that was, I guess, complained about by someone being built in early 2021, and to your statement that the ADU was completed in late 2021, that shed could be put anywhere on that property as far as we are concerned, or as far as I'm concerned, anywhere that doesn't need a variance. I mean, that property is one of the bigger lots in that neighborhood, according to the tables there. And it seems like it's a legal shed. I just don't know why, and I don't think it can be shoehorned into this site. The thing is, I can't see into that site from 8 Inyo, so I have no idea what's going on in there. The dimensions on the plan, call it a 7x9 shed, or 7x10 shed, but it's got eaves on it that make it a foot on all the way around it. So by my calculations, it makes it a 9x12. And yes, it's going to be hidden behind a fence, but acknowledge the fact that this shed is probably 9 to 10 feet high, not 6 feet. So the fence that it's going to be behind is 6 feet, but the shed and its roof line and everything is going to be well above that. That shed can be located anywhere on that site, including in the backyard, near or around where the water feature is going to be. I have no
I just want to thank you for your comments. We're out of time, but if you can finish up what you're saying quickly.
Okay. I have no problem with anything that is being part of this except the two variances, because I don't think either of them are necessary. And I think there's alternatives that would make all of it a lot better. And I don't want to put anything, I think it's a safety issue in my mind with this planter. And I want to make sure that allowing that doesn't allow future for that to be knocked down, and then all of a sudden that becomes an area that's been cleared for future construction of some other thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Could you just state your name for the record, too?
My name is Ralph Ardito, A-R-D-I-T-O. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Ardito. I live at 27 Inyo Avenue. I would also like to represent my mother in this discussion. I would also like to address Commissioner Newton's question when you asked if there was any feedback from 8 Inyo regarding the plan. There was none. We didn't find out about the plan until we got the notice from the town that this meeting was going to take place, so we had no idea what was coming. My concerns are two. One is the planter. It's a wooden planter. That's flammable against a wooden fence. I've got fire concerns, right, as we all do in Fairfax with the canopies and all the other. The fact that we're going to be adding fuel, basically, for the fire. The question of whether or not that planter will survive, because it is wood, it will rot. The foliage that's going to be planted in there is supposed to be fire resistant. What does that mean? What exactly is fire resistant? I believe everything burns, right? Unless it's cactus. I'm guessing that's probably the only fire resistant that you can put in. And the issue is, of course, wind at an elevated planter of maybe a 2-foot depth. I'm not really sure because, again, the plans were not clear. But my question is, will it sustain winds? Will the winds blow the foliage over? It's just putting more fuel next to my mother's house, and she's a 92-year-old woman. She would have a very difficult time evacuating if a fire were to happen. Somebody would have to get her out. So that's a major concern. The other is the shed also being put in the front. My question is that fence that was put up 9 feet from the property line. We were never notified on that of a variance as far as that construction went. And that shed being placed where it is immediately behind the fence, in a way, is a surrogate fence. And it's more than 6 feet tall. So again, a question why the shed has to go there. It could be put within the lot without going into the setback areas. Same with the planter. Why do we need a redundant privacy screen when there is one? We can't see from that deck into that yard, leaning around, doing anything. It's private. So those are my concerns. But the fire issue is a major one, right? It is a wooden construction for the planter, which that's going to burn, right? Wood burns. So, and again, it's against a wooden fence. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the room? Do we have any hands on Zoom?
I see no hands online.
Okay.
Can we ask some questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I would just like to close public comment and then, yep. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission. I understand from Commissioner Newton, you have a question for the applicant?
Yeah, I mean, technically, I think the hearing's open until all the public, including the applicant, is done talking.
Okay.
But, so I don't really want you to close the hearing until we're finished hearing from the applicant. I'll just be a little stickler lawyer on your commission for that.
Okay. Public hearing remains open.
Could you come up to the podium again and turn the mic on? I'll just first ask you if you want to reply to any of the comments you heard from the public.
Okay, thank you. Well, one thing I want to say about the shed and the fence that's on Inyo, on the east side of the house, that was actually done with Linda and Mark. Actually, Linda and Mark actually came over and talked to Ms. Ardito and me in person, and we actually did measure the 10 feet. So I absolutely thought that was all by the book and 10 feet from Inyo. But anyway, so I haven't measured it, but that was absolutely my understanding about it. So just so you know, that fence, I did build that fence, but it was with the supervision of Mark and Linda, and we talked with Dorothy about it. And the shed would be inside of that. It's true, as was said, that the peaked roof of the shed would go up over the fence, but it actually, we did it so that it mirrored the peaked roof of the house, so I don't think it would be a visual eyesore from Inyo. The open space in the property is kind of quite small because it's at 2 levels. There's a patio, then there's a steep thing, and so it's true, I could put the shed right in the middle of the open space, but that's kind of my little usable space. So anyway, that's about the shed. And about the planter, I can see that the concerns are real about the wood on wood. In terms of the screening, I think, as Linda was explaining, it's not that I'm trying to grow super tall trees higher than the existing white privacy screen that's on the deck of 8 Inyo. I just wanted to have some greenery breaking up the big white expanse. So I guess that's what I'd say. And I would even be willing to plant cactus there because I love succulents. So from the flammability standpoint, which I understand is a very real thing.
So the goal of the planter was to put some greenery as a screen of the screen that the neighbors have.
Right, not to completely hide it, but to break up the expanse. It's very, very high, which is fine. I guess that works for everybody. But
would you be open to considering a material for the planter that was not, or that was more fire resistant than wood?
You mean like some sort of fabric or something?
I mean, I'm thinking of wrought iron or some sort of metallic material, but I don't know. There's probably ceramics and things that might be less likely to...
Maybe there could be like an art piece or something. I probably would just not do anything. That would be another project and an expense, and it's kind of... But yeah, I don't know if I would need to do that, but...
And is the planter a necessary feature of the screening with plants? If you had a certain bush, could it go into the ground in that area, or is the planter necessary in order to...
You're right, it could. It's just that it's so steep there that it would have to be a really tall plant to get up over the fence. I don't want to make this more complicated, but if it would help to separate out the planter part that's along the fence, if that seems to be the most problem, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but if that could be carved out and not done, and I could still have the little planter on the south side of that laundry room thing, that's not right literally against the fence, and that would be great, because that helps shield for me my little utility area. If it was possible to sort of sever the part that's right up against the fence, if that would help the concerns for safety.
And, I don't know what the rest of the commission's thoughts are on that proposal, but I appreciate it. And I'm just wondering if they do decide to approve the planter on the east side, would you be open to a height limitation of the type of plant, not
Totally.
putting tall? Okay, and then my other question has to do with the MMWD requirements that you see in the proposed resolution for our review tonight, and whether you are prepared to undertake all of that.
Yeah, and I have to say, I didn't study up on that. I just learned about it. Maybe there's something that I didn't read, but anyway, I just had it called to my attention before this meeting. So I'm not up on that. So I kind of don't know what to say. I don't really understand that. If that's just making sure that the, like Linda was saying, that the appliances inside are to code and everything, and it's pressure safe and all that, or if this is a larger issue, I actually don't know.
I think it's a matter of ensuring that Marin Municipal Water District is satisfied with your water quota, and that this additional entitlement is secured with them.
I mean, I think I understand the need to conform with the regulations. Yeah, I don't know what the implications of this might be, though, to be honest.
Well, I think it's going to depend on the physical constraints of the property, to what extent there might be additional lines, or, you guys probably know a lot better than I do. But, I just want to make sure that you're aware that these would be requirements for our conditional use permit, that, if we're going to do that, that would be included
Okay,
as
so
part of it.
I think I would have to just say yes and hope it's not some giant infrastructure project that hasn't been in my awareness. So I don't really understand it, to be honest. But I do understand what you're saying.
Okay, and those are my questions. I'll just add that you are living in one of my favorite properties in this town, and I go there every day to enjoy the creek behind your house, and it's what I refer to as my happy place. So congratulations. I recommend you reach out more to your neighbors to try to find common ground, because,
Yeah.
it's a very, very close community, and, good for you.
I guess in a way I'm happy to apologize to the two gentlemen. I thought I had a good relationship with Dorothy, and she's very friendly and a wonderful lady, and I did not mean to cause her stress, for sure. I just want to say that. And I know that she's been in that property, and she had very dear friends who lived in the house that I'm in now, and that's a part of her life. I know that. So.
I didn't know. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have questions for the applicant?
It's up to you.
Okay, unless the commission has any questions for the applicant, I think we can give 2 minutes for a follow-up question. There's not a lot of comments here. Yep.
Through the chair, if I may, if public comment is not closed, may I just do a quick call out for anybody who has not been able to speak on this issue yet, who would like to speak. Now would be the time. There are a couple of people online, so if you have not spoken on this issue, please raise your hand. It's on the middle icon in the bottom of your screen. I see no hands raised.
Okay. Yep.
fair, we have no problem with any of the stuff that's being proposed as part of this, other than the 2 variances. And to your point of stopping the 90-degree that goes down the east side, particularly everything on the south side of that is the complete width of that shed that's right against the property line. So you'd have to eliminate at least 5 feet of that to make that suggestion compliant. I still think there's other ways to do it. And, you know, painting that privacy screen a different color could be an option if someone would have thought of it. It's not that big of a deal. That house that we're talking about is white with dark green trim around shutters. Why couldn't that be painted dark green, and it would just look like vegetation, and it would be a very, very simple fix? But that's just making it simple. And a little conversation, like you said, goes a long way with people who have common sense. I think we're trying to do that.
Thank you. Okay. We'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Does anyone have thoughts? Want to go first?
Could someone point out for me on the plan where this proposed planter is? I'm still just totally confused about where the heck this planter, wooden planter is. Yeah, well, I was just. Continue comments.
And then,
Okay, so we're proposing, or we're being asked to grant a variance for the planter and for the shed, which is intruding 1 foot into the side yard setback. Is that correct? Front yard setback.
Yes.
Okay. And the applicant says he worked with staff to locate the shed, but it's somehow it still is.
What he was saying is that Mark and I went out for that front fence, and on corner lots, you just can't, so when we went out, we measured from the sidewalk side of the retaining wall back, and that fence was at 10 feet. Fences can go up to 6 feet as long as they're 10 feet back from the property line. So when the building official and I went out and took measurements, we authorized him to do it because it's allowed by the code. But
I'm so confused.
No, I see why you're confused, because I had kind of forgotten about the fence. So if you look at that, then potentially, so the person that did these drawings, right? He's not a licensed architect, and I was going off of these drawings, but the applicant reminded me that we did go out and actually take measurements for that fence. And if that's the case, then it's possible the shed meets the 10-foot setback and does not require a variance, right? But we were going out, that was literally how many years ago? Like 9 years ago, 8 years, 5? A long time ago. We
And
deal
then
with a
the,
lot of
and then
things.
the other variance component is regarding this wooden planter, which is encroaching into the setback and
Right.
potentially a fire risk. So,
And the 104 square foot addition to the back, just because the laundry room is on the property line, right?
Right.
It doesn't meet the combined setback.
right, but it's because it's a
Yeah.
non-conforming lot. Yeah, okay. So, okay, yeah, just a thought, like, the wooden planter, if you build it of a dimensional lumber that's not going to burn easily, that would probably solve that problem. Just make it a, substantially thick dimensional lumber, or if you could build the planter out of stone or something totally non-flammable, that might solve that problem. And I'm just confused because it sounds like but members of the public who are expressing concerns are not concerned about anything you're proposing there besides the setback variances. So I don't really understand what the beef is.
I think what the neighbors are saying is that you can plant like shrubs in the ground that will grow relatively tall. They don't have to be planted in a planter that goes right up to the property line. There's other ways to plant green material there without putting them in a raised, elevated, I believe that's what the neighbors were trying to say.
If I can jump in, from what I heard, in that there was a concern that granting a side yard variance is sort of establishing an outpost, if you will, in a property, and then so to build something else there, you would not need the variance again. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's my understanding that the variance granted is very specifically for the project proposed with these plans. So if there was any change, if the planter even became a massive sculpture.
Or if it became a deck,
Yeah,
it would
that
require another variance from the planning
right,
commission.
because this variance would not happen.
Unless we wrote the resolution in such a way as to allow the neighbors and the applicant to get together and agree upon a solution that will make them both happy, or if they're unable to do so, give the planning director the discretion to approve a final planter design. Does that sound like something we might do?
I have a question. I want to jump in here. Image 3 on A07 seems to suggest that this planter is floating in space, meaning there's a space underneath of it. Is that true? So it's a building, it's not a planter. And this is not a planter.
So you could look at, it has like a concave area on the top of it, right? I mean, you could argue that it's some kind of a structure, or I guess you could call it a planting deck, right? I mean, I don't know, if it doesn't really matter what you call it, they're requesting a variance for it.
Correct, but so it's a structure,
It's not
right?
a living, it's not a building that someone's going to live in.
No, understood, but
It doesn't have, it's more like a carport structure, right? Like it's
correct,
enclosed
but
by
so
the fence.
it's a structure. So if you talk about a planter and it has walls
Yeah,
less
that's
than
why it
4
needs the
feet,
variance.
it's just you're raising up the earth to feed your plants, right? That's one thing. And until this point, I think that's how we thought about it. But that's not what it is. This is roughly 6 feet tall, and it has a 2 feet deep bed, all built out of wood, which is open to the backyard. You can walk under, and there's about 4 feet tall storage space underneath. So it's a structure. I think that is important for everybody to realize. Because, right, just building a 3-foot retaining wall to level your earth for your plants is a whole different aspect. And maybe that's where all the concerns come from, because it's all built out of wood.
Yeah, that's what they said. They don't like the wood.
Is that the image 3? Is that it? That's an existing structure? Was that a historic structure in any way?
No,
This
was
newly
non-compliant. It
constructed.
was built without a permit.
Got it.
So I had concerns about vegetation along the fence. And we've got a planter, or part of the structure there, that would have plantings in there. We've considered that shed a living space, the laundry room, sorry, a living space. It's got a bathroom in it. I'm a little concerned because we've had applications come before us where there's been questions about landscaping along a fence and had to go to Ross Valley Fire, and there were some changes made after that occurred. This isn't extensive like that, but again, is right up against a fence, and there's been no, I don't want to say a landscape plan, but there's been nothing that addressed, what is intended to be planted in there, whether it's something that Ross Valley Fire would have concerns about having vegetation up against a fence or not. So,
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone, this is not in a WUI zone, so I don't know if that's a difference why the fire department didn't make any comments about that. This is not in a WUI zone.
Yeah, it's right in the next to the creek.
and then my other thought was, and we really haven't talked about this, is the planned cistern for that water feature. And I'm not sure what kind of a noise level those have that may be of a concern to a
I
neighbor
don't believe
living
the
right
cisterns.
next to
yeah.
it.
I don't believe the cistern's going to make noise, but the pump that pumps the water up to the top of the water feature might make noise. Yeah. It's going to be at the western end, the pump, right? So it's between the ADU and the start of the, my understanding, talking to the artist, that's, the pump's going to be at that end.
Right next to my happy place.
At least 13 feet away from it, yeah.
Well, now I'm more confused than ever, I'm sorry to admit. So I don't understand. In some ways, I want to bring the applicant back up to explain what this planter, it looks like a deck to me now. It looks like a deck, but that wouldn't be allowed in the setback zone, right? So,
That's why he's applying for a variance.
right, but for a planter, not for
Oh,
what
are you,
looks like a structure now, or a deck structure.
it could be considered a deck, except I don't know how to describe it. It literally is like a, is it plastic, Tony? Is it lined with plastic? It is lined with planter plastic so that it will hold water, right? And it's like a foot deep, so you can put soil into it and plant things in it. So it's not something you can walk out on. I mean, unless he doesn't follow through and put plants in it. It's very unusual. And there is ground underneath it, so you can plant, if you wanted to. You don't have to plant in the planters, but they're there now, so. Now you have to decide whether, if you.
So this is already part of, we're getting legalization / variance for that, it's already there?
It's there, but it's not completed,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I guess I'd ask the commissioners if you guys are interested in coming up with a little two-step that allows the applicant and the neighbors to work together to figure out a solution without our intervention, and then if they're unable to do so within a certain time period or whatever, the applicant could go to the planning director for an administrative approval, ministerial approval, without the need for us to review that design proposal a second time.
I think that's a great suggestion. I really like that idea.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I see it differently. There's no problem with the entrance, with the cistern, or the little build-out for the hot tub, all the other modifications. But both things that require a variance are not necessary. So why is the variance there? How can I make a finding that that's not a privilege? I can't get there. I don't see why, because it's not clear that there's that much wrong with it, but why would it need a variance? Meaning, it would need variance if you want to build it there, but why build it there? You don't have to.
Just a thought to, I guess, bridge the comments by Commissioner Jansen and Commissioner Newton. Continuing this project for a month, which I know no one likes to continue projects, would allow potentially the town to remeasure the fence thing to see if we're getting 10 feet now, and thus there's no variance needed for that, and then for the applicant to come back after talking more to the neighbor and see if there's any changes the applicant would want to make to the plant holding structure, or if they want to just ask as is, because I know the applicant said earlier, could you approve everything without that?
Yeah, you can do that. You just have to ask the applicant to agree to a continuance with the planning commission not to exceed 90 days.
Yeah.
Because our next meeting, it could be very long, and I might not be able to may not be able to do staff reports on that many items, so it might have to be 2 months.
Could I get some clarification? I guess I'm more confused by Commissioner Jansen's question and the chair's proposal. And are you saying that they may not need the front and combined side yard setback variance?
They're still going to need the combined, but we were going, I deal with a lot of properties, can't memorize them all. This person that drew up the plans is not a licensed architect, and it took a year to try to get the drawings to this state. And so he scaled it at 9 feet, but he jogged my memory of being out there with the building official, and I can literally see us measuring from the face of the curb, right, back to the, so for the fence, and the fence was 10 feet back. So if the storage shed is going to be behind that fence, it doesn't need a setback variance.
It doesn't need, so specifically what we're talking about is a minimum front and combined side yard setback variance. So what you're telling me is the front.
It might eliminate the need for a front setback.
But they're still going to require a combined side yard setback variance.
Right.
Right? So you're not going to make that whole need to come back to us obsolete.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
he knows that.
No, I'm
Well, we
talking
would
about
have
what
to-
Commissioner Pfeffer, the Chair Pfeffer was.
I just mean literally minimizing, because if we're continuing it, he's got to come back either way, right? It was just coming back to see if that is resolved and if there is a different proposal for the planter structure.
All right, but I still want to include the Marin Municipal Water District
yeah.
requirements and all of that stuff, and, we'll be approving where the cistern's located and all the elements of this application.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me respond, clarify why I stated what I did. My concern about the shed and the planter is not the neighbor's concern. My concern is that we are granting a variance for something that I don't understand why it's necessary. It sets a precedent. Why build something in a place where it's not supposed to be? The shed is relocated from a place where it's not supposed to be to a place where it's not supposed to be. Why? That's the concern. And I'm quite sure that the applicant and the neighbors can come to a good solution, but it remains the question, why do build something?
I just want to point out one thing. People talk about this site being really large, but a very large part of this site is riparian vegetation, and it's not usable as outdoor space for the owner. And so I personally think that putting the shed in the center of the lot somewhere where it's going to meet all the setbacks will really restrict the limited outdoor space he has for 2 units. Remember this, now it's a house and an ADU. It's the private space for 2 residences, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
But if the shed is moved over 1 foot, it gets out of the front yard setback, is that correct?
If we measure in the field and show that these drawings are not accurate, it's possible that that shed doesn't need a variance.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the shed because it looks like you could
Yeah.
adjust it. I guess I'm now more concerned about this planter thing, whatever it is, being built in a setback, which, yeah, it doesn't seem like we would want to grant a variance for new construction in a setback. Yeah, and if, it seems like there's other solutions for that too, if you're trying to get a planter bed, there might be other solutions for that than building it out of wood, but it could be more expensive. Building out a concrete wall, for instance, would be totally fireproof and still provide the planting space, or a rock wall, but those would be probably more expensive solutions than what's been currently done there. And would either of those types of things require does a planter require a setback? I don't.
So if a planter can be, a planter that's made of retaining walls that are like 4 feet in height or less can go right up. Walls and fences can be in the setbacks, right? So retaining walls can be in the setbacks unless they go over 6 feet in height. So I mean, technically, I guess he could build a double wall thing, and fill it with dirt, and then it wouldn't be.
Right, so that would make the whole problem go away. That's why we're sorry.
Okay, so the drawings say that it's 7 feet up. So it is above 6 feet. I have a question about any evidence that any of this has been engineered and is actually safe.
No, we have none, and I've explained to the owner that if it does get approved, he will have to have engineered structural drawings done of everything he's done to get a building permit.
I'm particularly concerned about the cistern and the possible impact that it would have on the house and just public safety. I know it's your own house, but now that we see evidence of it, I don't see any evidence of that it was engineered to support itself.
So the building plan checkers will require that everything be engineered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a concern that the work's been done.
That's right. He's been advised that he may be pulling things out and rebuilding them
and
if they
just-
don't meet code.
Just for the record, something you just said, it does note that it's 7 feet up in the air. And again, how safe is that right on the property line? I've big concerns.
If everyone's concerned enough, you can just approve everything but the planter and require the planter to be removed. Everything's going to go through plan check with Coastland. They have engineers on staff. They made sure anything that requires structural engineering has engineering that their structural engineers peer review, right, before they issue the building permit. And if something isn't structurally sound, it'll have to be pulled out, or if it can be retrofitted, right, it'll have to be retrofitted. So.
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve everything except the planter.
Yeah, I would support that.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Swift?
Yes.
Where am I? Kelly?
Yes.
Bela?
Aye.
Jansen?
Aye.
Petrone?
Aye.
Newton?
Aye.
Chair Pfeffer?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We've passed a motion as noted without the approvals needed for the planter box. There is a 10-day appeals period where you can appeal anybody can appeal the decision, and they can obtain information on the appeals process from the town staff. Thank you. Okay. We ready to move on to item 2? I believe the applicants. Oh, you're on your way out. Okay.
Or we can take a 5-minute break if you want to do it now.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, well, let's have a 5-minute break. We will be back here just after 8:30, 8:31. Okay. I think we are back now. Thank you, and we are ready for agenda item 2.
So this project is proposed at 131 Bothine Road, and it proposes to remodel the lower floor of a 2-story residence and also construct a new 2-car carport and covered walkway that would be attached to the western side of the house. The lower floor remodeling work includes reconfiguring the lower floor layout and adding a new full bathroom. And there is some additional work needed to accommodate the driveway right width. So the driveway would be widened. The entrance would be widened to 20 feet at the street, and it would taper to 16 feet on the private property. There would also be a new metal rolling gate that would be in line with the fence line over the driveway, and there would be some modifications to the electrical and heat floor pump system in the lower floor. So the project is in the RS6 single-family residential zone, or RS6 zone. It is within a wildland urban interface zone and within a quarter mile of a known northern spotted owl nesting site. It's relatively large by Fairfax standards. It has a fairly steep slope. It's pretty slope in front, and then Bothine Creek goes behind the house, and then the property slopes pretty steeply up towards Iron Springs Road. So the existing property meets all FAR, lot coverage, and building height requirements, and it would continue to do that with project implementation. It also meets all setback requirements except for there's a 6-foot required front setback, and the existing front stairway encroaches about a foot into that. But that's a legal non-conforming condition since the house was built in 1926. Okay, let's see. So the property requires a conditional use permit because it doesn't meet the minimum size or width requirements of the RS6 zone based on its slope. So the findings, I think, can be made to approve the conditional use permit for the remodeling and the carport and the covered walkway. They're all residential uses, and they comply with general plan residential land use designation, and also with applicable general plan policies. Because the covered, the carport would be next to so the house is a 2-story house. It has a 2-story front stairway that goes up to front entrance on the 2nd floor. So it's pretty visually prominent at the front of the house, and the carport would be located to the side of that. So it would sort of help minimize its mass because it would be located next to this kind of prominent stairway structure. And it's also only going to be 11 feet in height, and it would have the same roof pitch, siding, materials, and trim as the house. So it would blend in with the existing residence. So it would be consistent with general plan policy LU 1.2.3. And the remodeled house and carport and covered walkway would be similar in design, size, and height to other houses, carports, and covered walkways in the vicinity and in the RS6 zone. So it would also be consistent, the project would be consistent with general plan policy LU 7.2.1. The carport and covered walkway would comply with all applicable setback, FAR, lot coverage, and height requirements of the town code. And the property would maintain similar setbacks, FAR, lot coverage, and height as other single-family residential properties found in the immediate neighborhood and throughout the Bothine Park subdivision and in the RS6 zone. The 20-foot wide driveway entrance complies with the 20-foot maximum driveway entrance width allowed by the town code. Widening the driveway would remove one on-street parking space. However, parking is allowed on both sides of the street. And on-street parking generally is not in short supply in that part, on that section of the street, in that neighborhood. And there are many properties on Bothene Road right along that area that have 2-car garages and approximately 20-foot wide driveway entrances. In fact, the 2 houses right across the street are both 2-car garage. They have a 2-car garage. Both of them have 2-car garages and a wide driveway. So the project wouldn't constitute a grant of special privilege, or would not be unequal, or they wouldn't be getting preferential treatment compared to other properties. There were no comments or specific conditions from any agencies. So all standard conditions of approval from the fire department and the water district have been included in the resolution. And we recommend the Planning Commission move to approve application 2510 by adopting resolution 2025-11 that sets forth the findings and the conditions for the project approval.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Jansen.
Yes, first to confirm, the original existing house does not have a garage or a carport, correct?
It does not, correct.
The house, other than the carport, does not get bigger in any form or way. It's within the same footprint?
Correct.
Okay. Maybe this is a similar issue on the table on page 2 with the side setbacks. If I look at the existing, then I believe the existing setbacks is 22 and 18 feet, and the new situation is 16 and 18, and that's because of the carport, which then changes the combined into 40 and 40. So it does not change any of the findings. It's comfortable within the code. I just don't think that the numbers are right.
Okay, because like when I look at the one side setback, the side that I think it's the west side with the 16, there is a structure, a stairway that's already in 16 feet at the rear of the house. That's where I was taking that setback from.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, then it's correct. I did not see that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And again, it does not change the findings in any form or way. It's comfortably within what's required, and so is the FAR. So no further questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Patron.
Also, just to confirm, so the only reason we're seeing this is because it's a non-conforming lot, correct? Mm-hmm. And then I didn't have time to do an in-person visit, but I'm seeing on Google Maps there's a kind of derelict basketball hoop that's to the right of the driveway. Does this project, it's no longer?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Swift.
So the staff report doesn't mention the 20-foot widening of the driveway entrance, but that would be a part of the project, correct?
Correct.
Is that, and we're widening the driveway itself to 16 feet. Is the 20-foot driveway entrance the minimum needed to address the 16-foot widening?
You'd have to ask the applicant. I mean, I would assume that if they were widening it, that's the minimum they needed.
Okay.
All right. Looks like we are ready for public comment. If the applicant wants to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeff Crude. I'm the architect for Julia Maxwell and Tom Bailey. And Julie was here but was unable to get a babysitter to stay past 8:30, so she had to zip home, but I told her she can watch it on TV or maybe Zoom or something. So hi, Julia, if you're watching. What we're doing is on this project is we're remodeling the lower floor for what's a growing family. I don't know if you noticed this second child is well on its way. And so we wanted to remodel the lower floor into a master bedroom, bathroom, 2 children's bedrooms, and their bathroom. Right now, there's 1 bedroom on the main floor, but children are too young to be separated. So we got into that, and then we found out that we needed a carport, because there's no carport. And then the carport, we tried to have a single carport with parking next to it, but that made the driveway opening more than 20 feet. Apparently, 20 feet's the standard and the maximum. So we just made the carport a little wider. I think we were 16 feet before, now we're 20 feet wide. And, as far as the opening on the street, I don't think we do need the full 20 feet if that's where somebody was going, because people do tend to park on the street on Botheen Road. Let's see, the other, the staff has really covered it all, but we tried to design the carport in a way to break up the mass. There was this one blank wall in the front that had a couple of awkwardly spaced doors and windows, matched the roof slope, matched the siding, detailing, and then we carried it down the side, which we thought made the carport feel more integrated into the house and would keep the family out of the rain, because that lower door will undoubtedly be the door they use to enter the house, since the original, whatever it would be, 1920 or 25 stairway up the front is quite awkward and extremely exposed to the weather. Let's see, Julia and Tom have talked to all the neighbors, and you can see it's not exactly a packed house this evening. Everyone seems to be supportive of what they're doing. So I guess at this point, basically, I'm just here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we ask questions, are there any raised hands on Zoom?
There are no raised hands.
Okay. Does the commission have any questions for Mr. Crute? No. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to do one more call for Zoom? Otherwise, I'll close public comment.
And this is the time, if you have any questions or concerns about this project, there is a raise hand button in the middle center of your screen on Zoom, and now would be the time to press that button, raise your hand, and we're happy to open your mic. And I see no hands online.
Great. We'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for comments or a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-11 of the Fairfax Planning Commission, approving application number 2510 for a conditional use permit for the remodel of the lower floor of the residence and the construction of an approximately 400 square foot 2-car carport and a covered walkway attached to the house at 131 Botheen Road.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that? I would add to that at 131 Botheen Road, in addition to widening the driveway entrance to 20 feet, since that's part of the project and it's not really spoken to. And I'm thankful that the architect is willing to look at that in consideration of parking on the road. And if there's a way that, it goes smaller, that's great. But 20 foot.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I'm not really quite sure I understand what you're saying.
The staff report didn't address the need for the 20-foot driveway entrance widening, which is a part of the project. So I just wanted that added into the resolution title.
Well, I would think we would need to, the title, I think you would have a provision in the resolution that would address that, wouldn't you? I don't know that the title is going to do it for you. So could you maybe say a sentence of what you're saying so that I could understand whether it was a sentence that I would agree to include in my motion?
So the sentence was to, since we don't speak to in the staff report anything to widening the
No,
driveway
could you-
entrance, that I would like to add that to the title in the resolution.
I'm sorry, Cindy. I was not asking you to restate the sentence. You already stated. What I'm hoping you could give me is a sentence to insert in the resolution other than in the title, because I don't think that title is the place to add some kind of condition that I feel like you're talking about, and I don't understand what the condition is that you're saying.
We have a friendly suggestion from planning staff. I think you could maybe add a short sentence in the title referencing the 20-foot wide driveway, and then also add something in the first whereas statement where you list out everything. 1, the remodel. 2, the construction. 3, the construction of new covered walkway, and then you could go 4, an expanded driveway. An expanded 20-foot wide driveway.
I would agree to that. Okay, so I'll
So
add
we're
that
adding
to the
that
motion.
to the title and then also within.
Number 4 on the first whereas clause.
Great.
Thank you.
Are you going to second me, Cindy?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since we have no one on Zoom, we can do a voice vote, is my understanding. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The applicant, your motion is approved. For the public, there is an appeals process. Information on the process can be obtained from the town staff. There's a 10-day window for appeals. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time and your service. And I think it was the late 70s, the first time I came here.
We appreciate you still coming back.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like we have our associate planner, and I think we are ready for agenda item 3.
Yes, correct. I will turn it over to Bryn McKillop to run through the next agenda item.
So the purpose of this item is to inform the planning.
Excellent. Do we have any questions on the...
One quick question on that, and I realize that what we were given was a draft CIP, but on page 79 and one of the 2 page 80s, there is a reference to Station 1 tenant improvements. Is that the same as the Fire Station 21 improvements?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
I have a few questions. Page 77, there are two projects there that I'm curious what that is. $220,000 for the kitchen in the pavilion. Is that a entirely new commercial kitchen?
Let me see here. I think I'm trying to line up my dates. I think that maybe have been started.
I know kitchens are expensive, but it's just the number stood out to me.
I think it includes some of the improvements that have already been I think it includes some structural improvements to the pavilion itself, which is why it's maybe more expensive. There's potentially some roof repairs, I believe, in there as well.
It's more than the kitchen.
It's more than just the kitchen. It's the kind of the kitchen and the structural improvements around it to make sure. I mean, the pavilion's in pretty bad shape, so anytime we do a project in there, we have to kind of fix everything around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On same page, the stormwater improvements, $900,000. What does that project encompass?
I do not know the answer to that question. I would have to get back to you on that one.
I would note, though, that under funding sources, down the row, it notes that that comes from federal and state funding. So it'll be tied up in kind of what we have funding for.
Yeah, there are cut sheets for all the items separately. You're saying there's more detail on that item?
No, I'm just saying that, it's the town of Fairfax isn't necessarily like deciding how much money goes towards it. It might just be kind of based on like what the funding criteria is.
So I'm misunderstanding that page. So if I look at the capital improvement program, that's the budget for 2025, 2026. So that's the estimated year 2025 project cost. That's the table. So that sheet tells me that you are planning to spend $900,000 this year on the stormwater improvements.
90,000, I believe.
Yeah.
If you go to page 20 of 40 on the
85
PDF,
in here, yeah.
it has the detail on the stormwater improvements, and it breaks it out into construction and engineering and design costs for this year.
Give me 1 second. What's the real page
So
is
it's
that?
PDF page 20 of 40.
Yeah, no, what's the real page?
But it's page 85, but
85,
the page
okay.
numbers are all messed up, so I don't think you're going to figure it out.
Okay.
And what I understand is that's basically what we can expect to receive from state and federal funds, so that's what we are trying to spend. Is that,
That's my
Hearing that
understanding
correct?
too, that we have American Rescue Plan funds that we can use if we find projects that meet it. And the description here at least is storm drain mapping at various locations and installation of pollution control devices.
Okay, so this is not necessarily an anticipated project to be spent. It is the potential of what we
Yeah, a lot of this
anticipate
is
could be spent.
intentionally vague because we haven't done those kind of preliminary studies to know exactly what improvements will be made yet.
but there's a fascinating budget meeting that the council has
all right.
regularly where they go
Okay.
into great detail on all this stuff.
I have two more notes then, because those are of a different character. We're going down to the cut sheets, page 90, through page 90. There is a project, and that stood out to me. The engineering cost is more than the construction cost. That's a red flag for me, and that is the bridge preventive maintenance program. The second one is the Creek Roadside Bridge that also has an engineering cost that is almost identical than the construction. Typically, engineering costs are between 5 to 15%. 100% that is, sorry, I can explain it, but it doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I'm flagging it.
But I think I understand the concern about the numbers and the dollars, and that is kind of more related to the budget aspect of this. We're only looking at, as we did a year ago at this time, whether these projects fit within the general plan.
And I would also ask, I don't have the experience you do on knowing the relationship, but could it be these ones stick out because the note that the engineering costs include the NEPA process and the environmental and permit process? I don't know if there's, you're paying
Well, and I see for the Bridge Preventative Maintenance Program for Spruce Marin Canyon that the engineering and design costs over the 2025, 2026, 27 time period are, 400 and something. And then the construction costs over 2026, 27, 27, 28 are more 800 and something. So I think I don't agree that construction is less than engineering.
The first column is the estimated total, so it lumps it together.
2025, 26.
Yeah, but construction always follows engineering, so you can't break it apart. So you have to add
So you have-
400, 200, and 200, which is the same amount as the construction.
No, but the construction keeps going on to 2027, 28.
Correct. Engineering precedes construction.
Correct. So again, it looks like in 25, 26, you got 242,000. 26, 27, you got 233,700. So that's 400 plus total engineering and design. And then beginning in 2026, 27, you have 430 plus 403. That's 800 in construction. So my math, I'm just saying, it goes over time.
Yeah, but so you're omitting the prior cost, which is $476,000. So your engineering cost is your 400 plus the almost 500 already spent.
I have no idea what you're saying, Robert.
Well, it's the columns.
Just want to say, as Commissioner Swift pointed out, that we're supposed to review these, whether or not they align with general plan, not actually review the sort of project costs at this time. We're asked just to sort of, determine whether or not these are aligned.
I have the numbers in front of me. I'm questioning them. I just want to flag them. I don't expect that we're going to solve it. But, so, no, understood.
But I just want to understand, and I might be a little slow, or my brain just works in a completely different way than yours does, which is why I'm like a pit bull, and I'm not going to let go until I understand what you're saying.
Okay, let's do that then. So on that same page, right, the first column has for engineering, excluding environmental, that's a separate column. Engineering and design only gives you a total of 918 something. Construction is 833. So the engineering is more expensive than the construction grand total. That grand total is prior years. That's for engineering 476 plus 25, 242 plus 27, 200. That's your total. That's all your engineering costs.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
And so that one column, the prior years, is part of it.
All right, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And I will stop talking about dollars.
I have some questions. And this is again just the lawyer in me here. So the staff report says that it's including, so the resolution refers to the capital improvement program as provided in Exhibit A. And at the bottom of that page, there's a stamp that says Attachment A. On the following page is the signature page. On the page after that is a document that says Exhibit 1. It does not appear to be the CIP. It appears to be excerpts of a draft CIP. Is that correct? So my point is that in the resolution, when we are referring to a capital improvement program, CIP, as provided in Exhibit A, I don't see, first off, I don't see anything labeled Exhibit A. I don't understand whether Attachment A is supposed to be to the resolution that we're looking at, and that it was an attachment to the staff report, or what that Attachment A at the bottom means. And then I see a document that has a stamp saying Exhibit 1, which is not an entire CIP. It is excerpts of a draft with many pages in the wrong order or misnumbered. So I just want to be clear about what exactly we're attaching to our resolution, and I want to be specific about what it is. So if we're attaching this draft excerpts that is now titled Exhibit 1, let's refer to it as excerpts from a draft CIP as Exhibit 1 instead of Exhibit A, okay?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and you're characterizing it correctly. It's a draft document that was kind of put together by our finance director in absence of having a public works director. So,
okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's all I had.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Swift. Oh, no. Is that all our questions or comments? We do have an action to take. If someone wants to make a motion, I think for Commissioner Newton. Oh, public comment. I apologize, Deanne. I was fooled by the empty room. I'll open up public comment and see if there's anyone on Zoom.
We have no hands online.
Thank you. The open public comment is now closed, and we'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation.
I'm in favor of this, but I would like Commissioner Newton, if she would, to make the motion with the changes that you identified in the resolution, if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I would move to approve resolution number 2025-09, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the Town of Fairfax, California, finding the FY 2025 to 26 capital improvement program is consistent with the Town of Fairfax 2010 to 2030 general plan, with the change that in the third whereas clause, where there is a reference to the capital improvement program CIP, that should be a reference to in the excerpts from the draft capital improvement program CIP as provided in Exhibit 1 are consistent with the adopted general plan, and that would be my motion.
I make a friendly amendment? I would just move everywhere in the 3 places where we say, including in the title, fiscal year 2025 capital improvement program, we add the word draft in front of it, and then afterwards we say as presented. So it would, everywhere it says that, it would say draft fiscal year 2025-26 capital improvement program as presented.
I would accept that amendment.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Can we do a voice vote on this one, since we are all here?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is approved. The Planning Commission has approved resolution number 2025-09. And we are on to our final agenda item of the night, minutes.
Or, yes.
So I can start off on this one. So on the roll call, 4 commissioners are listed. But Commissioner Kelly was absent, or 4, wait a minute.
There's actually 5 if you include
5,
the
I'm sorry.
chair. And I was absent as well.
Right, and only one was identified. Let me go back and look at this.
It says that Commissioners Bella, Jansen, Patron, Swift, and Chair Pfeffer were here. Do you, are we supposed to write who's not here?
Commissioner Bela was not here for the roll call, is what I'm trying to get at with that. Commissioner Kelly was absent, and I think he was identified as being absent. Commissioner Newton wasn't identified as being absent. Then, so I want to delete Commissioner Bela from the commissioners present under the roll call, and then add when he came in, which was right after the roll call, but before the approval of the agenda, as the chair called out when he came in. Just to be clear on that.
I'm not sure whether or not that's the way they do these action minutes, but you know, I think definitely to identify the commissioners who were absent would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think we could add a commissioner's absent. And then we could maybe perhaps add a parentheses next to Bella that just or Bela that says approximately when he arrived.
Well, we could, or we could just have, since that is the roll call and he wasn't here for the roll call, we can delete him from the roll call and then add the statement before the approval of the agenda that it was noted by the chair that he arrived.
It doesn't say roll call. It just says commissioners present. Well, it does say roll call above that.
So when I recall from seeing other minutes, what they do have here is under roll call, they would have like commissioners present, commissioners absent, and then someone, the last person on commissioners present would say arrived at blank. It happens at a lot of the meetings start at 6.
Yeah, we do that with the Green Party minutes. We always, if people are present but they weren't there at the very beginning, we just put the time in parentheses that they arrived, so it's clear that they were there but not at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think that's what I was suggesting, maybe go arrived after roll call with a time.
Which is basically what I was saying,
Yeah.
is to delete him from the roll call and then add when he did come, which was after the roll call was taken, but before the approval of the agenda.
The only problem I have with that, Commissioner Swift, if I may, is, you know, if somebody's just looking at the minutes really quickly to see who was there, you don't want them to have to read down to where in that meeting a specific commissioner arrived. So I would recommend not like putting it in real time at the piece of the agenda where the commissioner appeared, but actually putting it up the top with the time they came, does that, I don't know. I don't want to go on
No.
too long about it.
I mean, I've seen it the way I presented it as a correction we've done in the past, where the chair is called out for the minutes and when they arrived. So I think that's clearer on that and easier to look at. And you don't have to approve my corrections on this because I'm going to go down further on that. And then on the approval of the agenda, we have Commissioner Kelly, who wasn't here. Sorry. So we can delete that because he was absent.
Oh.
And then the first item we had, and I reviewed the video today, was the public hearing on 100 Iron Springs Road. So that item took over an hour and a half. We had a standing room only audience on this, and there was approximately 30 minutes of public comment, some of which resulted in additional conditions placed in the resolution based on the public comment. None of that was captured in here, even in a brief format. So I would recommend that we have in there public comments, many comments in support for this application as part of the overall trail project. Some neighbors voiced concerns over safety, soil stability, and stormwater runoff. I think that captures better what we went through for an hour and a half and gives a clearer picture to anybody looking at these, including all of the attendees that provided public comments. And then I think my last one, page 3, top of the page, I think the motion meant to read motion second Jansen Swift to table review and consideration. I think it's just a spelling error on the tail versus table.
Oh, okay.
And that's it.
And Jansen's misspelled.
Sorry, I didn't get that one.
Commissioner Swift, in the last paragraph where there's commissioner comments and requests, it says the public was advised that next week was International Dark Sky Week and directed to the Dark Sky of West Marin website. Is that closed quotes after Marin?
Correct.
Did you have any other comments? Anybody else have comments on the minutes? All right, we can have a motion, and I would just ask that the motion say whether or not we're including Commissioner Swift's comments, so it's not coming in an amendment.
Oh, okay. I'll move to approve the minutes from the meeting I wasn't at, with the changes to include the commissioners absent that were Commissioner Kelly and myself, with the change to add the time that Commissioner Bella arrived behind his name where it says commissioners present, but also to add the time that he arrived in real time somewhere in there. Like Commissioner Bella arrived, it sounds like before approval of the agenda. And the other changes indicated by Commissioner Swift and myself. Over.
And the misspelling that I found. I just wanted to put that in there.
Duly noted.
With that appropriate credit, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes passes unanimously, and we are through that section, through the public hearing on the agenda, and we are now at Planning Director's report. Is there?
Yeah, I just have a few things to mention. So we have a couple of hot topics on the town council agenda coming up next week. We're going to be discussing kicking off the bicycle and pedestrian master plan project, which is kind of a combined public works planning and building services department project. But we're going to kick that off before we get our public works director on board, just kind of get it started so we can establish a bicycle and pedestrian committee. And so that's also going to be an action at the next meeting. So then we can start finding people to serve on that committee, kind of get the ball rolling early.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Sure.
That's because somebody asked me about that and was kind of in relation to the Iron Springs project.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, I didn't see anything out there identifying and I may have missed it, what the special meeting was about.
Yeah, the agenda is going to be posted tomorrow.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll let them know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so we have a separate, apart from the meeting, we have had a separate solicitation for people to kind of sign up as potential committee members. And so then also on that meeting, we're going to be talking about the kind of a town center sub-project. There's some interest in doing some parking and circulation analysis in the town center. And so I don't really know what the council hopes to achieve from that project. So that's going to be kind of the purpose of the project is kind of outlining what has already been done in the town center, what has been done in the town center related to parking and circulation. There's some information in the general plan and in the circulation element, the town center element, and also the housing element, all kind of related to this. And there was a parking study done a very long time ago in 2003 that may need to be updated. So anyway, so we're going to be proposing some options for them as like how involved do you want this project to be? Do you want it to be just a simple parking study? Or do you want it to be like a fully involved kind of circulation analysis and parking analysis of the town center? So anyway, so that is going to be that topic. So those two topics are on that. And they're also going to be talking about e-bikes and potentially some regulations related to e-bike safety. So it's kind of a very transportation-focused meeting. Then we have our special planning commission meeting the following Thursday. So I'm going to be putting something out to the newsletter list. So to hopefully get some public to show up to that. That would be the 2 weeks from this Thursday. The very last Thursday in May, and I've gotten responsive from most of you that said you were available on that day. What else do we got going on? Oh, and then of course there's the budget that's coming up. They're hoping to adopt that on June 4th. So, and also potentially appoint members to that bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee on that day as well. So I think that's all I got. Yes.
Just on the pedestrian bike advisory committee, is that open to the general public, or does that come from, is it
Yes,
committees
it's
among the
anybody
existing
that is a
commissions?
resident of Fairfax can be on that committee.
And has a consultant been selected to do the planning effort for that?
No, that's going to be part of the, we're going to be presenting kind of a draft RFP to the council at that meeting, and then if they green light it, then we'll be sending it out the next day to qualified firms.
Okay, and then with the parking study, is that also just like kind of a scoping session with council to figure out what you're trying to accomplish with the
Yeah,
parking
kind
study?
of maybe not as detailed as a scoping session, but yeah, just kind of like here's, option A, very simple, just parking study, and option B is probably somewhere in the middle, then option C would be, a really robust circulation analysis and parking study for, multimodal.
Yeah, one of the things I was trying to get out there, or a suggestion, is actually to look at a parking management plan for the downtown. So that would be not just an analysis of existing parking, but feasibility for managing the parking, basically pricing parking, charging for parking in the downtown, and what that would mean. Like, for instance, the possibility of setting up a parking district for downtown that could generate revenue for public realm improvements in the downtown, for instance.
That would be, I can convey that, but that would be an excellent thing to come to the town council and tell them directly if you're brave enough. So,
And I think the general plan, I know there's been parking space counts,
yeah, there is in the current general plan. Yeah.
which is already OBE since then, but to go back and look at that, I assume part of that parking study would be to see the number, to update that, to see what the existing spaces are. And there's language in the general plan about no loss, I believe, to parking downtown.
Yep. So, okay.
In terms of the consultants for either the bike and ped potential study and the potential parking study, are those consultants that have already responded to an RFQ? Do we have a sort of pool of approved consultants, or is it just a wide RFP process?
Yeah, we don't have any established pool. We have consultants that tend to do work in Fairfax. It's somewhat difficult to attract consultants to come to Fairfax because it's a little bit remote.
Sure.
In terms of, distance from Highway 101, basically. So, but yeah, we will hope to cast a fairly, wide net to see if, just to give, hopefully bring in additional people.
I'm not sure about the legal implications of this, but I'm going to say it anyways. As a former transportation consultant, is it helpful for me to disseminate it to contacts of mine to drum up interest, or is that not?
Oh yeah, it's anybody can bid on this. Okay. It's not a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's also another problem Fairfax has, is we don't tend to have large budgets to do things.
Of course.
So
yeah.
that kind of tends to narrow down our.
But it's fine for me as a role as a planning commissioner to solicit bids casually.
Yeah, there's no problem like letting people know about an RFP.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you remind us of the date for this special meeting?
It's not next Thursday, but the following Thursday. Yep. 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 All right. That's all I have. Yep.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any other commissioner comments, requests? Yes, Commissioner Swift.
At the last town council meeting, I believe the town manager mentioned that there are plans to have a public session with the planning director and our housing attorneys on current and upcoming housing law. So I don't know if there's been any discussion on that further than that as to what that would cover, what that covers. Normally every year we have something like that to go over current law. and what we see on the horizon. But my other question was, considering that this also followed a lot of public comments at the council meeting from individuals that had gone to the open house for School Street, would that also then include not only state law, but also what our code says, our housing-related codes, such as what objective design standards are, density bonuses, development processes within town, and we've heard comments about impact fees. So I don't know if the intent was just to cover new state law and the bunch of the ones that are on the horizon. But I think it would be helpful to also address our own code in relation to housing. Because I think the two go hand in hand, especially for the public's concerns in the community and trying to give them a better understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable suggestion, and it is intended to be kind of a joint presentation between kind of planning and the town attorney. So I think, because I would probably be more focused on what you're talking about, and then the town attorney would probably be more focused on
because they do go
state law
together. And then my other question for you is, now that we've approved the CAL FIRE local response area fire hazard maps, will we, for new applications coming in, refer to those versus referring to applications that are within the WUI or not, since we have this new mapping?
Yeah, I think they both would still apply, the WUI and the fire maps, because they kind of are, I mean, they're different maps and different regulations apply depending on, you know.
Right, but most of the areas now under the LRA, but just to, when we're referencing what applications come in and whether they're, you know, within a quarter mile of a nesting area, or whether they're in the WUI or not, would we also then now look at the applicability of the LRA?
I think we're saying the same thing. So yeah, you talk about the nesting areas. Is it in a WUI, and then also where is it in relation to the LRA? Yeah.
That's all I had.
It's related to your first item a little bit. I've been studying those things myself, and I have one specific question. I thought maybe the planning director knows the answer to that. So if you have a project that complies with a whole long list of things in state law, and it's eligible for a bonus, it may also may receive waivers, incentives, or concessions. I would like to understand the waivers. If something is waived, does that mean the entire provision gets wiped out? So as an example, if you have a building height limit and you receive a waiver, there is no limit whatsoever? Is that what a waiver means?
Well, you only get a waiver of what you need to do the project, and you have to demonstrate that you actually need it to do the project.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, understood.
So
it has all those
like
conditions.
Variance, you know, you don't get any more than you.
Yeah, so it's not like a bonus, you get 50% more or 20% or something. No, if it's waived and it complies and you can prove.
Somewhat open-ended, yes.
It's somewhat open, yeah. So if it's not possible, but in theory you could build a 400 feet tall building. If you were, it's probably impossible to do that because of other reasons, but there's no limit. Once it's waived, it's gone. Parking or whatever it may be.
You still have to justify it.
It's going to be a good
Then
discussion.
How, yeah, sure, no, understood. But so I'm trying to get my brain around that, and it's kind of odd. How many, is there a limit to the number of waivers a project can receive?
Yeah, it's specified in density bonus law.
I find it for incentives and concessions. The word waiver is never limited. But I don't know the answer. That's why, see if you know the answer.
Yeah, you don't really know the answer until you actually like get in there and apply it to a project.
Okay.
And it's always moving too. I mean, I think the density bonus law just got updated last year, so this is one thing we may learn if we have this housing.
Yes, no, as I said, it follows up. I was just trying to get my brains around it, and so thank you.
Yep.
But I think that's good in that it speaks to the need for the housing meeting to address those things, as well as our own local code in relation to all of that
Absolutely, yeah.
and how they intersect. So,
Incredibly
yeah.
complicated, yes.
Yep.
I have a couple things. First off, I want to thank Deb Benson for bringing up to the Planning Commission's attention at our last meeting that the tax on vacant homes had been overturned in San Francisco. I really appreciated that information and wanted to see if members of the public have ideas for how to address this problem without a tax. Maybe there are incentives to get people to rent their houses out in Fairfax. Anyway, so that was one thing. And then the other was to ask the planning director to follow up on the comment that we got on the non-agenda items this evening about the Fairfax code provisions that appear to reference procedural requirements that aren't in the section that's referenced as having the procedural requirements. And if you could look into those, the information that we heard from Mr. Hamer, and either, look and see whether or not there's a correction to the code that needs to be put forward, or if, I know for any application that was submitted with the code, it's kind of frozen at time, but to the extent that there are, loose ends that need to be tied up for future purposes, that would be a really good thing to follow up on.
Yep.
Thanks.
I had just, I guess, one related question to the others on the School Street Plaza project. I appreciate seeing in the newsletter that there's a email address for the town to direct comments and questions to. So people aren't going to every meeting and calling up every staff member if there's a place they can direct some of their issues. For projects when they're submitted like this through SB 330 process, is there a state agency that also collects and maintains a record of these applications that are done in local jurisdictions? Just
not that I'm aware of, no.
And it's also a good reminder that not only would there be an email to address questions to, but there's also, it's one of the email lists that you can sign up for to get notifications on
Yep.
changes to the project. That's also good for the community to be aware of.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you can there's a click sign up on either in that email, but also on the town website page for that project. And if nobody else has any other comments, I would just like to say it's great having Commissioner Newton in person for our meeting here.
It is great to be back.
And unless anyone has anything else, can we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.